Hiya. This is going to be a reply video to Lisa O about her questions to do with, first off, what's the Canadian medical system like? And secondly, given my experience or my perspective, um, if I feel that she should still maybe search for her birth family. So to get to the first one, um, the Canadian medical system is um, shoddy. I mean, it's not great. People are, as I've mentioned, more ignorant about themselves and unaware of themselves and disconnected from nutrition, health, all these things, and completely dependent on someone else's opinion for them. Now, in my opinion, the reasoning behind that is because dependence is being created for the populace, dependence on a system that's telling them what's good for them and what's not. And unfortunately, what we've run into is a massive situation whereas people are farmed, experimented on. Absolutely. I mean, our histories show us that. You cannot be a critical thinker and not pay attention to history that every 30 years they're coming out with something telling you about the horrific experiments they were doing on people, and then think to yourself, well, they got everything they needed, and now they would never do that because all of a sudden politicians and government and doctors, lawyers, professionals, the law system have gone away from profit and have become humanitarians and altruistic. No, they haven't. Um, have the poor gotten easier to deal with? No, they haven't. Is crime and drug addiction and everything on the rise? Yes, it is. So, all that being said, free healthcare system is just simply a very um, it's a part of the system to keep a check on you, to keep you doped up, and profiteer from your dis-ease, your diseases, and your bad health that is created through corporate greed, um, population control, etc., etc., etc. So, as far as the medical system here goes, the old sayings are all true. You know, the truth will set you free, in for a penny, in for a pound, and you get what you pay for. And although you pay in your taxes in Canada, you're giving up 50% of your income to the system here easily. Um, and I mean, when you really start getting into like some basic math, I mean, you can see the scam going on. But at the same token, your healthcare is it's a crapshoot. We live in a rigged casino. So if by chance your particular health situation falls in line with the current push on pharmaceuticals, or happens to be something that, oh, now we're going to kind of take care of these people because it can lead into something else, then oh, fantastic, you got the right drug and you can continue on functionally in some way. But in all seriousness, what sort of society do we live in whereas a large portion of the majority of that populace requires medication, heavy forms of mind altering substances, and I include cigarettes, alcohol, street drugs in that, and that most people just don't realize that they're self medicating. Because subconsciously you will seek that out when you have anxiety problems and issues and things like that. So I mean, if you cut off your leg, or you need some stitches or something like that, fantastic. But unfortunately, due to the way the system's been set up over the generations, you are on a schedule. You don't go to the doctor when you're sick, you go for your checkup, right? So it's just like eating. If you don't eat on your scheduled 3 meal a day time, oh, I'm starving, I gotta eat lunch. But you're not starving. You're not even hungry. You're probably a big fat, not you, Lisa, but I mean, in general, I mean, the average populace is overweight, obese, and they're not starving at all. And there's no way you can go a day without eating. You're not gonna starve to death. You're not gonna be suffer harm. But I think the fact being is that when you're not digesting, there's a certain calmness about you. There's a maybe some more energy that your body has. There's something to it that you mistake for hunger. So you're mentally programmed to associate your eating schedule with your digestion. You're always digesting. That's the plan, right? From the time you get up, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. I mean, and on top of that, people are just shoving their faces all day long as well. But um, I mean, cigarettes, alcohol, all these things. I mean, get rid of those and then start taking a look at the reality of your other addictions that you weren't even aware were actually unhealthy and addictive. Sugar, they say, is 10 times more addictive than caffeine, or I mean, than cocaine. So, as far as Canadian mental health goes, I've run into some situations which, for my own mental health, that are understandable and findable on the internet via, Freud and Jung and Erickson and development. You can learn more about ADHD than your own doctor probably knows very easily, which I've done. I had to diagnose myself, then find an expert, and he wasn't going to diagnose me with ADHD because I present so well. But the test clearly showed I have ADHD. I just happen to have an IQ, so it's a broad spectrum ADD. The hyperfocus that I thought was some sort of OCD that was coming on to me. So, anyways, the point being is with the internet, with the libraries, you, every single one of you out there, has access to whatever you want. You can solve your fucking problems yourself. Um, it might be tricky to sew yourself up if you slice yourself, but you could. You could do it. Um, you know, down to the simplest things like health. If you want to know what's good for you to eat, well, first you got to quit eating everything. Get rid of all the junk. But at the same token, I had an NA sponsor at one time that said, quit things in the order they're going to kill you. Well, once you start that little project, you start realizing that pretty much everything you got is going to kill you, and then you even get to the point where your tap water is poisoned with fluoride. So, minimalism is there's a lot to be said about it. Unfortunately, it is looked down upon. If you are not in the process of consuming in large amounts and toxically, then the other people who are in this toxic paradigm are looking at you like there's something wrong with you and there's something threatening about you. You're threatening me, something about me, and I'm not sure what, but I don't like it. Because what it is the fact that if you're getting along with the herd, well, when everything's going smooth, you don't want to rock the boat. But I can tell you that the human body and psyche has thresholds. And if you think you're having problems now, well, the toxicity is on the way up, just like the national debt and all the other terrible things that we coexist with. So, as far as the Canadian health goes, we present a picture of this utopian health system, but the reality is far different. And realistically, as far as I'm concerned, the Canadian health system is all for show. They make a big push about mental health, But when you go in to get mental health, they don't know how to treat mental health. You can't get a diagnosis. They don't want to diagnose. They want to put you on medication without a diagnosis. They'll put you on antipsychotics right away. They'll put you on SSRIs right away. They'll just hand them to you. Yeah, basically, it's a sick system. And on top of that, you have a huge populace of addicts, and a lot of those addicts aren't even aware that they're addicts. They're simply pharmaceutical addicts that have been prescribed by their doctor, so they feel as if it's safe, even though if they subconsciously know there's a problem. And that being said, they go in for more and more, and subconsciously, if they need more, their opiates aren't working for them. Subconsciously, pain is going to manifest, right? And the pain is real because they believe they're in pain. And of course, that's how it works. You spend a certain amount of time on opiates and you're numbed out. Well, that feels pretty freaking nice in a culture and a society that's kind of painful and anxiety producing. So, I mean, I could go on and on about my own experience with the healthcare system, but just to give you an idea of how corrupt it is. My family doctor, who I quite liked, I thought he was a nice guy, I trusted him for years, couldn't even figure out that I was being rushed to the hospital as a baby all the time for lung failure and couldn't figure out it was the smoking that was the problem and diagnosed me with asthma. So even with asthma, you'd think he would have said, "You cannot smoke around this kid in the house." But no. Instead, they give you drugs. They give you Ventolin, which is what, a cortisone? I don't know. It's some sort of stress situation. And I mean, you can tie that into the whole situation that you're on stress drugs all these years from a very early age. Then that leads into, I mean, think about it. It's as addictive as heroin. Well, what do you think happens when the kid leaves the house and doesn't have his little fix of nicotine? Well, he's got ADD, he's hyperactive, he's all over the place, until he gets home. Well, what's the solution to that? Well, let's put him on amphetamines. It's just this balancing act of all the drugs you're being given. And who the fuck knows what the fluoride does? I mean, it's a neurotoxin and a heavy, heavy toxin of all sorts of things. And so, I mean, how the hell do you know what your natural state is? The old saying, know thyself? How can you? You're doped up right from day one. You're on vaccines. Who the fuck knows what they're putting in that? So there is that. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't think you're missing out on much here with the Canadian system. And as far as, worrying about these high medical bills in the States and stuff, quit eating what they tell you to eat and quit taking the drugs they shove down your throats without massive investigation and as a last resort. Take it upon your own health upon yourself. Take your own mental health upon yourself. Look it up. And when you go to your doctor and he tries to tell you different, say, well, you know what? I'm going to go with Freud on this one. Fuck you. All right. So now on to your second. This is a response to Lisa O's other statement about what she should do, what my opinion is of what she should do about her birth family. Well, I mean, I think every adoptee in the back of their mind hopes and prays that, they were given up because of a bad situation and that they took that time to better their lives. They didn't suffer trauma and become ruined and drug addicts and alcoholics, hopefully. But I mean, the truth of the matter is they have been, the birth mother was traumatized too. The birth father may not even know about you. So your childhood with them is wiped out. Your bonding opportunity with them is somewhat wiped out unless you're willing to go back into an ignorant, baby-like state of being for your psyche to try to reintegrate into that family is my sort of idea. I've seen situations where reunions happen. It's so great, and you hear that from these people, and then a couple years later, it falls apart or shits the bed, or It's not easy. I mean, you're talking about a situation that may have destroyed you, right? There's going to be some psychological issues attached to that that are going to cause resentments and pain for you, and you're not going to know where to direct that. And chances are you're going to direct it outwards, whether it be at the birth family, the adoptive family, but someone, and especially if you don't understand what you've been through. Now, understanding what you've been through. Well, the adoption agency doesn't want you to understand that, because if you do, you're going to understand that you've been victimized and you've been part of a global engineering agenda that's akin to slavery. Okay, I say that because when you take millions of children and place them statistically for economical gain and to create citizens that are more pliable, well, what the fuck do you think that is? It's slavery. And not to mention the fact they may not be slapping chains around your neck, but do you think fucking putting a baby in a home with cigarette smoke and letting them get addicted to that for fucking however many years is not slavery? I mean, we're all well aware of how fucking pimps turn hookers into the sex slaves with heroin. Well, what is the only equivalent to heroin that we know of? The very legal tobacco that, somehow doctors were convinced were good for you, with money and bribes and corruption. So the world is the world is fucked. And um, you know, as much as I want to be positive, I need to know. And there is positives. There is positives. If you people who have been adopted can make your way through these struggles, can understand what's done to you, can unwind this for yourself, find your inner core underneath all this corruption and shit, and you know, find a core self, and then on top of that, develop a spiritual higher self to guide you and to attach to, so you're not looking for your mama or your papa anymore. Because subconsciously, I think that's what we do, and I think most adoptees will see that in a lot of their relationships in this. Um, but I mean, I've seen adoptees in rich families, poor families, educated families. Doesn't matter for the most part. All of them have suffered. All of them have been through roller coaster rides. All of them everyone I know has had drug and alcohol problems. A lot of them being blackout alcohol problems. But at the same token, of course, I mean, that's going to bother you for the rest of your life. You kind of want to know. But my recommendation is to do your psychological work on yourself first. Get yourself stabilized. Encounter within yourself the possible reality that these people may not appeal to you, and that is going to be painful because that's where you come from. And you may not belong with your adoptive family, but at the same token, you don't necessarily belong with these people either. You have been created into a special creature. You are different. You're unique. So, what does that mean in summing up? It means, you know, there's going to be pain. There may be joy. There may be a whole new side of yourself to open up and explore. But please plan for the contingency plan that you're opening up a door for more pain. But through pain, we grow. So, I mean, if you want to look to where the world is going and where it's going to be, well, now I think that for myself, anyways, as an adoptee, that I see very clearly that the problems and the pain and the nightmares I have had to endure can be turned around and can be used for positivity, for your own growth and happiness, and for a possible life that you may not have been able to access had you just been a normal, legitimate child, or a bastard born, or whatever it may have, whatever other scenario may have been possible for you. So Lisa, thanks again. I mean, you're one of my first viewers, and I do want to answer everyone's questions as best I can, um, and I try to stay on topic. But again, I mean, if you people want my opinions on anything, just ask. I'm an open book. I'm here for you because no one was there for me. So I mean, it's like the old saying, when you can't find your perfect mate, well, become the mate that you need. And unfortunately, I could never find the mentor or the shoulder to cry on or the wisdom I needed, or the answers I was looking for, or the mental health in the Canadian mental health system, which tries to hide the fact that any adoptee should have any problems. Oh, well, you're such a lucky bunch of group of people. But that's only if we can make it through our own psychological prison, right? Because you've been convinced that by signing a piece of paper, you can make these people your parents. Pretty convincing trick, but um, no, no, I'm not taking you know, a goldfish and saying that's my child. I'm not taking we're not Cabbage Patch fucking dolls, and you know, that whole Cabbage Patch thing was just another adoption propaganda push. Fucking assholes. Talk to you later. Bye.